There is a bright future ahead. Not because we hope for it, but because we will work for it. So us moving from this life of poverty and inequality, and us winning the fight against corruption and tribalism, it's not something that should be done. It is something that must be done. The land we love.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
And I am Anthony Sie, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our program, The Hour of Politics. With me always, your host. Today, we have a presidential aspirant, Dr. Clarence K. Moniba, as our guest. And folks, we want to say welcome to the broadcast and do us that favor and share the broadcast with your contact. Your friend may not be mine. And I think Liberians need to hear from their fellow citizens with this quest to represent our country as its president for renewal. That's what he said. And so welcome. I will now take this time to welcome my guests, Dr. Clarence K. Moniba. Dr. Moniba, it's good to have you. Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
No, thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be on, and it was good to see that video. I think I shot that video almost 2.5 to 3 years ago. And so we did that video. But very happy to be on so that we can talk about the issues surrounding Liberia and how we all think that we must move the country forward. No one person can fix this country. And so all of us as Liberians now need to rally around and work together to see how we can make Liberia one of the greatest countries on the African continent. So thank you very much for having me.
And that desire to making Liberia one of the greatest country on the African continent got you in this business running for office. Congratulations for that decision. I know it was not easy. I know it's a huge responsibility and undertaking, but more than likely you are prepared for this. So it's good that you are doing that. We want to welcome you. Since this is your first time, this is our ceremonial caller here. It's good to have you. How's family?
Everything is good. So I will be expecting my cola. Don't let it just stay there in the US with you. I will be expecting my cola. But life is good, family is good. Just again, very excited about this journey that we're about to take. Not only necessarily for my family, but for the country of Liberia. I think 2023 is a very important year in terms of how our country is going to go. We have to change the future in this country. And so that's what all of us, again, like I said before, we all have to work on. If any one politician comes and says that they're going to be the one to fix this country, they'll be lying to you. If they say that together, every Liberian is going to work together to develop and build this country and make this country that we want, then we're going somewhere. So thank you very much for my cola, and I look forward to eating it one day together. But thank you very much.
You are so welcome, and we'll make sure you get that cola. Folks, let's start like this. We can no longer just survive as a nation. That has never been and would never be good enough. We must endeavor to thrive as a people, as a society, and as a nation. And I read that again. We can no longer just survive as a nation. That has never been, and that will never be enough. We must endeavor to thrive as a people, as a society, and as a nation. That is a quote from my guest, Dr. Clarence K. Moniba. So let's get started. Many people might be seeing you for the first time. Maybe they have heard about you for the first time. So the curiosity is, who is Dr. Clarence K. Moniba? Moniba, they want to know.
Yeah. No, and thank you for that question. I've always thought of that question by saying that I'm the proud son of Dr. Harry Moniba, who served as the former vice president of Liberia from 1984 to 1990. And of course, my beautiful mother, who at some point will be watching this interview, Minita Moniba. I'm somebody who, during the war, I lived out of Liberia for 20 years, from 1992 until 2012. I lived outside of Liberia. And so during that time, I was fortunate enough, I was blessed enough. I know a lot of times when people hear my voice or they hear that the fact that I lived in America, they think that everything was so perfect in America. The typical perception would be like, oh, they were in America, all the government money. But sometimes I'm proud to tell people that I lived in America, and sometimes I didn't have food to eat. I didn't have a place. And I say that because, I want people to understand that everybody in life has struggles. In Liberia, we say sometimes when the code's sweating, you don't know. But, everybody has struggles and challenges, but I was able to overcome it. And through academic scholarships, through athletic scholarships, I was able to thankfully get 2 masters and a PhD. And I returned to Liberia in 2000, ready to serve and work for the country of Liberia. Before I returned, I worked for the Liberian Embassy in Washington, D.C. I worked for our United Nations office in New York. I worked for our Trade and Investment office. And then when I came to Liberia, I was blessed enough to have worked as head of the President Delivery Unit, where we focused on, and I oversaw a lot of the infrastructure development in the country. So when you look at issues such as the Mount Coffee Hydro, I'm proud to say I worked on the implementation and the negotiations for that. I was on the team that negotiated $250 million. You look at the red light to Banga to Ganta Highway Road, I helped to oversee implementation of that. When you look at, the Lofa Road, the first phase of the Lofa Road, I'm proud to say that I was able to work on that. in terms of the implementation. You look at the CLSG line, the Cote d'Ivoire to Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone electricity line that's in the country. I'm proud to say I was able to help with that. So when I came to Liberia, not only did I serve as the head of the President's Delivery Unit, which again oversaw all of the infrastructure development in the country, but I also served as the youngest Minister of State with our portfolio in Liberia's history. And I also served as the youngest chairman of LEC in Liberia's history. So, we've been here, we've been working, contributing. I've also been blessed to have worked with the high-level panel for the United Nations, as well as the African Development Bank's post-fragile states. So I've worked, for these different institutions, including the World Bank. So World Bank, United Nations, and African Development Bank, in addition to the work I've been able to do serving the Liberian people. So, again, I'm proud of the work we've done. But to be honest with you, the work is just getting started. I'm 43 years old right now. I have a family and my one son. But I really feel as if that, what we have to do to the Liberian people in terms of being part of the solution in this country is something I have dedicated my life. Since my father passed away, I really took on this challenge to make the commitment that I will be one of the people to help develop and build Liberia. And so, like I said, this is the first phase that we are doing, and we will continue to work for the Liberian people as we have done for the last 15 years with a clean record. I'm proud to say that. I don't think anybody you can talk to will ever say, anything negative in terms of corruption or anything of that sort. And I promise to continue that challenge of serving the Liberian people with transparency, with dedication and commitment. So that's just a little bit about me, but I look forward to further questions. And also, more importantly, talking about how I envision Liberia, what I think we can do in terms of building Liberia from the agriculture sector to the educational sector, health sector. So thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate all
Absolutely.
the information you shared, and we'll get to the meat of this interview and this discussion, because when you are running for president, you should have a plan. That's how you answer the question that you are running. So definitely we'll get to that. But my curiosity here, Dr. Moniba, is, you are not the only one with this interest to be president of Liberia. And so one might be curious, okay, what sets you apart? What is different about you just beside your academic credentials? What sets you apart from all other persons with interest for the post of president?
And that's a very good question. And I think, aside from the academic credentials, and you're right, I do think that is a very important piece of being president, somebody who is educated, but that cannot be the only piece. Somebody also has to be qualified. So I will go back, to what I talked about. I think when you're trying to identify somebody who wants to be president, when you're going to vote for somebody who is going to be president, not only do they need to be educated. Again, I'm blessed to have 2 masters and a PhD, but they also have to be qualified, which, as I said before, I've served as the youngest Minister of State with our portfolio in Liberia's history. I've served as the youngest chairman of LEC in Liberia's history, where I oversaw the negotiations. I helped to oversee the negotiations for my coffee hydro, the $250 million, the CLSG line that's bringing in electricity from Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. A lot of the transmission and distribution lines, I've helped to actively negotiate that. I'm proud to say I've negotiated hundreds of millions of dollars worth of development projects for the Republic of Liberia. And like I said, all with a clean record. There's no issues there. And we've been able to contribute to the country. The RIA airport terminal, is something that I personally helped to oversee the negotiation for the $50 million that came into the country to build that. So when I say, why do I want to be president? I want to be president. Yes, I'm educated, but just as importantly, I'm qualified. I think I would be one of the most qualified people running for president, even at the age of 43. And then more importantly, the character, the transparency, the vision that I have, and we'll talk about it further. But I think the vision I have, the energy that I have, the qualifications, again, that I have is perfectly suited for Liberia right now. The challenge we have in Liberia is that we don't have roads and electricity. And these are the things, when you talk about negotiating, when coming to the country, these are things that I'm extremely strong at. So that's why I feel like I can be and should be the next president of Liberia.
Thank you. You put emphasis on the issue of qualification, and I agree with that. The president of Liberia should be knowledgeable, should have the experience in terms of negotiation. You have negotiated the use for Liberia in millions of dollars. There might be some candidates in the race who have done similar, even more in billions. So you think just by you having the experience of negotiating contracts for Liberia in millions, is that enough for you to be selected? But the question more so is why you think Liberians will see in you that they will not see in others to elect you?
Well, I think the important part is I have helped to negotiate, but I've also helped to implement projects.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge that we have in Liberia is the implementation.
Okay.
We have very good laws in Liberia. We do not implement. We have very good policies and proposals in Liberia, but we do not implement. So that's my strong suit. Yes, I have negotiated. I've helped to negotiate hundreds of millions of dollars to Liberia, but I've also implemented hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects. And more importantly, again, I've done it with a clean record and clean character. Nobody at home or abroad can ever say that, any type of corruption or issues such as that. And when it comes to qualification to that specific point, I can argue and be confident that nobody has that type of experience in terms of government negotiations, in terms of negotiating and implementing government projects. Nobody who is running has the qualifications that I have. So I'm proud to put my resume and my career up against anybody, although I am only 43 years old. Again, us running wasn't just something we just woke up and said, let's try our luck. No, we've been preparing for the last 15 years, plus years, from education to qualifications to implementation to working with institutions, multilateral and bilateral institutions. And so my resume, I think, speaks for itself. And while a lot of people are just hearing me for the first time, is that normally in Liberia, we elevate the bad and we downplay the good. We elevate the bad and we downplay the good. If I had been in government, like I have been, for the last, 15 years, give or take, working for institutions, and I had stolen a lot of government money, if I had done anything bad, everybody would know my name right now. My name would be a household name at this point. Because again, we celebrate that sometimes in Liberia. But when you're going about doing the right things, and I will continue to, it's harder to get your name out there. So you have to be able to do the engagement as I'm doing right now. Yeah, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And I can relate to that, and I'm sure many Liberians do too. But the one thing you emphasize here is the issue of implementation and accountability. In fact, you have a quote out there by saying there are two issues in Liberia, according to you: implementation, accountability. You stated here that that's one thing you have, to your credit. You implementing projects in Liberia successfully, according to you, and you are accountable because you have no record of any political corruption and any wrongdoing. The Liberian people who will be voting, Clarence, Tipote is one person I admire. He has an impressive record. Tiawon Gonglo has an impressive record. There's no record being established against the terms of corruption, in Liberia. They ran and they didn't gain that traction. So one might be thinking, Clarence has to find something here because what he has, all of Liberian has it. You're talking about PhD, Tipote have one. Good record, arguably, Tiawon Gonglo, he has it and he's not getting traction. So all the energy might not be enough for the voters. So what is that thing that you think will be your urge, besides the education and qualification?
That's the only thing I have for the Liberian people: education and qualifications and good character. And I think that should be enough for the Liberian people to be able to select from. I know you made a comparison to the other people, who may have not been successful. But, the thing about life is that everybody's luck isn't the same. The only thing you can do is prepare yourself mentally and be prepared to be able to address this challenge. My commitment to the Liberian people is that, we're going to ensure that there are good people in Liberia. There are good Liberians in Liberia who want to see good for this country. There are Liberians in this country who want to build instead of break. There are Liberians in this country who want to empower others instead of just themselves. I am one of those Liberians. So what we have to be able to do is to put ourselves out there and go through the process. This is my third interview today. I gave 2 speeches. Our effort, the only thing we can do to the Liberian people or for the Liberian people is to give them the choice. And the choice I'm giving is that I'm someone of our generation. 85% of the people in this country are under the age of 45. We have one of the youngest countries on the continent of Africa. So because of that, I'm representing not only my generation to say, vote for me because I'm young. I'm telling people to vote for me because I'm young, I'm educated, I'm qualified, I'm competent, and I have a clean record. And that is the type of leadership that Liberia needs. So yes, other people may have tried and not been successful, but we plan for that not to be our story. Our story is that we're going to take Liberia, we're going to take the leadership of Liberia, and more importantly, we are going to make Liberia one of the greatest countries in Africa because we have the policies, we have the strength, the energy, we have the education and the qualifications and the character to ensure that Liberia is a country where everybody benefits and not just a select few. And so that has been my commitment, and that will continue to be my commitment for the Liberian people.
So that's Moniba, on the issue, and finally on this issue, you should be having an advantage here. Looking at, your age, 43. You said 60% or more of Liberians are within that range, from 15 to that age range, and so now it comes to strategy, it comes to communication, it comes to how you relate to people. Maybe how you inspire them. Thank God you I believe you have your doctorate in rhetoric and were a professional communication. So that's your area.
I like you did exactly.
Yeah. So talk to us. How are you trying to connect to these people? I know I've seen video. I see a lot of young people, but if you look at, we're estimating now maybe 6 million people. So you must be going for half of that to connect this thing, my man. So what's the strategy to connect into the young people?
Sometimes we try to make politics very difficult and hard. There's no strategy in the sense of, listen, I believe that when I talk, people will see my passion. And more importantly, when I talk, people will see my plan and vision for Liberia, which I'm excited to talk about. Shortly, I'm sure you'll be asking what we need to do in the agriculture and the healthcare sector and the education sector. The only thing is that's stopping us from winning this current election, and we're going to address it, is for people to know me, for people to listen to me, for people to hear our platform, for people to know about our history and what we have done. There's 8 months to elections, and we are going to work every single day to ensure that the Liberian people, not only what we can do for the country of Liberia, but what we will do for the country of Liberia. I think that's very important. If you compare us to any other political leader, any of the parties or any other people running, I'm confident and I'm sure that once you put us on an even playing field, that we will come out ahead. So yes, we are running, we are young, but we have all the vision that everybody else has.
Okay. Another thing Ellen had, when she started in 2005, was this perceived or new, international connection. To your credit, well, based on what I've read about you so far, you have some. And as you can see, here you are with former President Barack Obama. And there you are also with Tony Blair, former British Prime Minister. And there you are also with former U.S. President Bill Clinton. I mean, you came so close to them. It might have been a significant, relationship. How are you using this to your advantage, or intend to use that? Because Ellen saw that, and people bought it, and then she became president. She was able to do what she could for our country.
Right. And what I like to stress about that is, those were pictures that it's not like I just showed up and shook their hand and left. I'm very proud to say that with all of them, I've had multiple meetings, or to be able to sit and discuss policies, talk about nation building, talk about peace, talk about development, talk about the rule of law. So I've been able to have high-level meetings with high-level people, and not just presidents from the United States or Europe. I've been able to sit and have detailed conversations with African presidents from Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire and Togo and other countries as well. So I've been blessed to have talked to people at this level. I understand how people think. I understand how people work. Serving as Minister of State in the previous administration, I was able to get a firsthand look at some of the things that are required to be an effective president, some things that that people do or don't do when it comes around the presidency. So I'm proud to say again, at 43 years old, I am still one of the most qualified people in terms of experience, exposure, and character that will be running in this race. So like I said before, the only thing that is stopping us, I think, a front runner in this 2023 elections is for people to hear us talk, for people to know what we've done, for people to understand the type of connections we have. But also when they talk about connections, I think it's very important for people to understand that not only is it important to have connections, once you become a president, you have connections. But how do you talk to somebody? What are your plans and visions? Because yes, you can know them, but you have to be in a position to be able to sell your idea, to be able to sell the greatness of your country, to be able to sell the potential of your country. And that's where I think when you compare me to everybody else, that's where I come out ahead, because I will be able to sit down with anybody, whether it's a US president, whether it's a president for another major country, whether it's the president of the World Bank or African Development Bank, and be able to pitch to those individuals why it's so important and necessary to move Liberia from where we are now to the brighter future, to where everybody in this country benefits, to where we are educating our Liberian people, where they are going to better hospitals with trained doctors and nurses and better trained teachers. And so this is the idea. Yes, it's important to have connections, but it's more important to be able to know what to say and know how to negotiate once you have those connections.
And Dr. Moniba, I read your plans, and they are very interesting and very enticing. I believe some are bold, even though I think you will agree that's just an outline of your vision for Liberia, right? And those need to be concretized into solid policy sometime in the future. So before we can talk about these policies, you must understand what the problem is. So to the best of your knowledge, as a country, what are our major problems and how serious is each one, as concisely as you can put it?
Where we are right now as a nation, we got plenty of problems. Let me just put it that way. And we have so many priorities. So the thing is, honestly, sometimes we can say, what we have to be able to do is to identify some of the key things. But with the major problem we have, and I said it before, is implementation. Liberian people, I've been blessed. I've been to almost 50 countries in my life. I haven't been to one country where I sit down and say, yeah, these people are smarter than Liberians. Or these people work harder than Liberians. They don't. It's just our system. It's how we implement. It's how we commit to progress. It's how we need to start to put country over self. We need to even start to put country over tribe, which is something we do. So once we start to make that decision to decide what type of country we want, to set the standards. In Liberia, we're very quick to say, Anthony, or at least. That's the thing that can really make me vex when people start talking about, at least, the man stole $200,000. He gave out $10,000. At least he tried. It's this mindset and attitude that we have to change. We have to be doing everything, like, for example, and again, we'll talk about it when it comes to policies. But if God can bless me and I become president of Liberia, one of the major goals we'll be doing in the first 6 years is to ensure that JFK Hospital and Tapita Hospital are two of some of the best hospitals in West Africa. That's how we need to be thinking about Liberia. How can we build some of the best roads in Africa? How can we have some of the best public school teachers and pay them well and train them well so that we can have some of the best students in Africa? This is the mindset we need to have. So as president, as your leader, this is how people need to be thinking with our country, instead of just saying at least. So when you talk about the major problems in this country, it's implementation, it's mindset. We have to be able to change those two things if we want to change our country.
Thank you. So now let's talk about the policies that you are advancing or your plan, right? You have a plan for education, you have a plan for agriculture, you talk about governing, you talk about international relations, you talk about housing, you talk about healthcare, infrastructure, creating jobs, land rights, security,
Absolutely.
transparency, and to fight corruption. You have a lot of ideas here, and I'll give you as much time as possible for you to really speak to us. What is that thing for each of these sectors that you mentioned that you want to tackle?
I will start off, and thank you for the opportunity, because I think in Liberia, as we go into the political season, I ask people not to decide today who they want to vote for as president. Listen to everybody's platform. Listen to how they present it. Look at their background. Look at their history. Have they been able to deliver before? Have they been able to negotiate before? Have they stayed true to the world? Once you do that, again, don't decide today, February 5th, you want to be president. Decide when it comes to August, September, October, after you have heard everybody's platform. So when it comes to my platform and what I think we can lead this nation to, let's start with agriculture.
Okay.
Liberia is a country where every day Liberian has to eat rice. But yet, where do we get our rice from? From India, from China, other places in Asia. We are literally waiting for somebody in Asia, a farmer, to grow rice, put it in a bag, put it on a ship to send it to Liberia before Liberian man can eat. That is just not fair to ourselves. What we will do, what we will ensure when God bless us and we take the presidency, is to ensure that Liberia becomes self-sufficient in our staple food of rice. And I think the process that we'll do, I think will be very easy, simply because there are 15 counties in Liberia. We are going to take every single county and ensure that each one is responsible to grow something in Liberia. So let me give you an example. Lofa,
Okay.
Bong, Bapolu, Bong, Cape Mount. Counties like that, we take them and say, y'all will grow all of the rice in Liberia, all of the rice that Liberian people have to eat. We do mechanized farming, we do irrigations. We ensure that we can produce enough high quality rice for the Liberian people to eat. So we don't have to wait for other countries to grow rice to send it to us. Something as simple as that. We go to Nimba and we go to Grand Jida and we tell them, y'all will grow cocoa, y'all will grow cassava. We go to the Southeast. So y'all will grow bitter ball, y'all will grow pepper. We go to places like Bassa and River Cess and tell them they will be growing plantains and fruits. Imagine if we do that and assign a county and make sure that they produce enough food for the food security of Liberia. Where would we be? You would then start to see a country that is self-sufficient and self-reliant. So that's the first thing we're going to do for the agriculture sector.
And Dr. Moniba,
Identify the 15 counties. Yes.
Dr. Moniba, stop there. Let's go step by step, all right?
Yes.
So that our viewers will really hear from you well. On agriculture, you said ensure self-sufficiency in the nation's staple food, rice, by creating modern food production zones in each of the nation's 15 counties of Liberia, established based on best use of geography and soil content, full cash crop production zones throughout the country for export, provide a low-interest loan assistance program directly tailored toward small to medium farmers and cooperatives, introduce a buy what you grow program. This will not only encourage farming, but will sufficiently increase the amount of food on the market as farmers will have the covenant to invest in growing larger farm yields. Great. Now we come to the implementation, the part that you like. How do you implement this by timeline and also the resources to have it done? As you well know, we are above 175 years. Maybe we can argue that we have not been self-sufficient as a country with this rice thing since our history. Is that true?
We haven't. You know, I don't think we have, not in the immediate history of Liberia. So we have not been self-sufficient. Although in the '60s, we were a country that was very strong in agriculture and production, and even exporting in the '60s, going into the '70s. But when you talk about the implementation of that, please let me tell the Liberian people today that the issue of developing our country, money is not the issue, in the sense of there is enough money in the international community. There is enough money when you go to the African Development Bank, when you go to the World Bank, when you go to bilateral partners, there is money. The challenge we have always had in Liberia is the planning, is the consistency in our mandate of how we want to move our country forward. So when you sit there and say the implementation, again, it's very come to every single county, and you identify based on the soil, based on the weather, how are you going to, what type of products, what type of crops can grow here, whether it's plantain, whether it's mango, whether it's pineapples, you identify that. Liberia, we have 5.5 million people, maybe. We have huge land. If you drive right outside of Monrovia, you'll be driving for miles and hours and see small villages. We have land. Land is not the problem. The talent, the workmanship, that's not the problem. It's the vision. Once we have to then be able to identify, like I said, in every county, what we can grow, with the ultimate understanding that rice, we must be self-sufficient. Once we can do that, you would then be able to see all of these people who are living in Monrovia, all of the young people, the younger generation, leaving the city, going to these favorite
be like that Moniba, what would the ownership be like? In other words, I mean, the involvement of the citizens, will it be more like as it was in the past, or more like government involvement, or private citizens are going to take ownership? Will it be like small businesses getting involved? Give us the explanation here, how will it play out?
You know, let's be very fair. To be able to do this on a large scale, which is what we must be able to do if we want to see the type of advances that we in the short term. Government has to play a part. But with that being said, you cannot take out private sector investments. So there's a lot of cooperatives, even if you look at China and you look at what they were able to do in terms of, there's a lot of small farmers who ultimately fed into the larger pipe system. So you can go, you know, let's say if, again, Bomi is a place where we say we'll be growing some rice for Liberia, one of the 6 or 7 counties that will be growing rice for us. There are a lot of small, hardworking farmers there who would then be able to put in. And so that's why when you talk about the guaranteed purchase, once you grow your food, you get it to a central point, we buy it. Because what ended up happening a lot, I remember in the previous administration, there was a farmer in Nimba who grew 2 truckloads of plantains. The truck got stuck in the mud. Those plantains spoiled right there. So what's going to encourage him the next year to continue to grow? So as a country, as a government, we have to tell the Liberian people, you grow. As long as you grow and you can produce it, we will buy it. Because that also lowers the price of food on the market, which should be our ultimate goal. So again, the implementation of what I want to do, what our administration will be doing, is to ensure that every single county is assigned a product, a crop, and we facilitate them with proper modernized irrigation. We facilitate them with proper mechanized equipment to be able to push this forward. The private sector will also be able to help. We have to be able to do agriculture loans, something that Liberia had up until the war started. We have to be able to help to support these small farmers too, because it's not going to be just government running farms. No, the country cannot grow like that. It has to be the private sector. It has to be private citizens who are also helping to contribute to our development.
Thank you. And finally, on agriculture, I'll go back to the funding again. Right now, I think I think they call it Maputo Declaration, that requires nearly every African country, or those African countries that are part of that or signatory to that agreement, to spend at least 10% of their budget on agriculture, so that we can go toward food sufficiency. Our current administration, from what I read, is falling short of that. Are you going to be able to not fall in line with that? What are you going to do?
I think a mistake, right? I think a mistake that we're making because the majority of the budget that even goes to agriculture isn't
Mhm.
for cultivation. Let's be
Okay.
fair. It's for
Okay.
salaries. It's for
Mhm.
operations. It's for so we have to even re-look at how we're spending the money in agriculture, which isn't
Mhm.
up to the 10%. It's not.
Okay.
But then even the little money that we're spending, I don't want to give a percentage because I'm not sure what that percentage is. But
Okay.
even that money goes again to travel, to buying vehicles, So first of all, even if we look at 10% of our Liberia's budget, right? Let's say 600 million, so $60 million. That is not going to transform our economy in terms of agriculture. We have to be able to put out a proposed plan to institutions such as the World Bank, the European Union, the African Development Bank, our bilateral partners. We have to be able to go to countries who are very friendly to us, such as China and India and Pakistan, countries in Indonesia, countries that are expert and skilled in growing agriculture. We have to be able to go with them and sign bilateral deals so that we can increase the production in Liberia. $60 million, for example, is not going to turn our country around when it comes to agriculture. We need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars if we really want to be a food country. And that has to be our focus. We have to be able to look for money outside of the national budget. And something that can only be done when you have a president and a leader who can sit with other world leaders, other presidents of multilateral institutions, and discuss and speak to them on the level that will convince them and make sure that they invest in Liberia, that they see the bigger picture.
And then the issue of training, capacity building, Liberians taking ownership of the entire agricultural sector. Because if we are to grow our economy, this is one sector you will agree with me. The emphasis, has to be on, but then it has to be Liberians in charge. So training, capacity building.
Absolutely.
What are your ideas?
Absolutely. No, that's the most important thing. It's one thing for somebody to come and do it for you, but it's more important for you to be able to learn how to do it. We all know the saying, buy a man a fish he eats for a day, teach him how to fish he eats for a lifetime. That's
Mhm.
what we have to be able to do in Liberia. So every single negotiation we enter, every single agreement we enter, what must be paramount is the fact that there's going to be a training component. We have to, at some point, stop looking on the outside for us to progress. Stop looking
Mhm.
for other people to come do for Liberians what Liberians should be doing for themselves. So
Mhm.
the only way to be able to achieve that, though, is to focus on training, on technical and vocational training in all the variety of sectors. So that way, 5 years from now, we no longer have to go to beg for money. 10 years from now, we no longer have to go get expertise from different countries to be able to come and teach Liberians what we should know already. We are 175 years old. And right now, the country we have is not good enough for Liberians. But only us can fix it. Nobody else is going to come fix this country. We are going to get help, but while we're getting the help, we have to prepare ourselves so that we can stand on our own.
Thank you. And your plan on the creation of job or jobs creation is somehow intertwined with your agriculture. And I think it's reasonable. And it reads here, established in Liberia 73 district, at least one molding factory to ensure targeted employment and value addition, ensure significant industrial value addition for exports of at least two natural resources, iron ore, gold, timber, diamond, rubber, etc., etc. So what is your goal here with this job creation? You're talking about 72 district that there is some form of a factory,
73.
73. Thank you, 73, and there's a
Absolutely.
factory there, so that
70.
whoever
Right.
live in there will be able to access employment. How is that going to happen?
And this is where now we go to the education sector of my plan and policy of how we're going to redefine what it means to live in Liberia, to thrive in
Mhm.
Liberia. I'm
Mhm.
very clear that from the day we take over, one of the first executive orders we're going to do is that nobody will be graduating without 2 years of technical and vocational training. We have to be very clear about that. Your junior and your senior year, you have to be able to learn a skill, whether it's carpentry or electrical work, masonry, catering, something. We should know people from high school who only graduating with the diploma. We have to have people who graduate from high school with a diploma and a certificate in something so that they can not only empower themselves, but help to build our country. So when you talk about all of these different factories around the country, it's only there so that we can spur growth in that particular district. You know Liberia very well. There's some districts in this country where when you go, you will feel too bad and think that you are living in 1822 because no development has gone there. So we have to be able to force progress, development, employment in different counties, in different districts. The reason why in Liberia everybody runs and tries to work for government, comes to Monrovia, because there's nothing attractive in the different counties. There's nothing attractive in the different districts. So, and I'm not talking about these mega factories. It will get there at some point, but to begin with, let's ensure that there's something there that will attract the people of that district to want to stay home, to want to work, to want to build, then want to build their own communities, their own villages, their own towns and cities. So that's why we have to be very focused. What are we doing for each district? We have to take Liberia and look at it per district. We can no longer say, oh, Liberia needs roads. Yeah, Liberia needs roads, but let's go a little bit further. Let's go down to Liberia needs roads where, what districts, what counties. Liberia needs development. Liberia needs jobs. Yes, Liberia needs jobs, but let's go to District 1 in River Cess. Let's go to District 2 in River Cess. How are we going to create jobs in those specific districts? We have to be more specific about helping the people of Liberia.
If I may, Dr. Moniba, the 72 districts where you are saying there should be a factory each, is it government that building the factories? Is it that government is, giving others or businesses or companies the opportunity to create? How are you going to create a factory? Is government not going to do it or somebody's going to do it?
It has to be policy. It has to be private sector, which will only encourage the private sector to come when we have the proper policies in place, when we have the proper, rules and regulations in place, when we start to fight corruption, so that an investor doesn't get to the airport and the first thing he's being asked for money. We have to be able to address all of these things to be able to attract people to come, to establish, sometimes when we talk like this and people feel like, oh my God, the plans, it's not possible. It is possible. Other countries have done it. Liberia must do it if we want to develop. So when we talk about establishing factories in districts, it's not difficult. I continue to say it's not difficult because we have this mindset in Liberia that Liberia will always remain the same. Liberia is a great country, and Liberia will continue and will be a great country one day, but we have to continue to have faith that the right set of leaders will come with the right vision. So when you're talking about the private sector, we have to be able to open up the country. So even when you talk about the foreign service and foreign affairs, one thing we'll institute is visa on arrival. Let's open our country up. Let's open our country up to the world, to investors, to businesses. Some people sometimes when they want to come to Liberia, it's so expensive they can't find an embassy to go and even apply for a visa sometimes. We need foreign direct investment. We need people to come and invest. So we'll make sure that it's very easy to come to Liberia and invest.
One thing I was looking for also the issue of incentives, because if you want to incentivize businesses, maybe foreign businesses, investors to come to Liberia to establish the factories in the counties for employment purposes, why are there incentives? Why should they have reason to come in your country, go as far as Mount Grand Crew, where you find it difficult to get there to establish a factory? What profit they're going to make anyway? So there got to be incentives, right? What incentives do you have in mind for these businesses?
It would have to depend on the type of initiative and project that they want to do. So if somebody goes to a Grand Cru and want to do a business, what's viable in Grand Cru? You know, are they going to open an agriculture business? Are they going to be to help with the, you know, the self-sufficiency of food in Liberia? Maybe that's one thing. Are they going to open, you know, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of forest in that area and wood. Are they going to open a factory where you're making locally made furniture? You know, that's another incentive. So it would just have to depend on what the person will be doing, what type of investment they're going to be able to do. So if you're coming to Liberia, you say, oh, I'm going to invest $10,000. You're not going to get the same investment or incentives that somebody who is coming to invest $10 million. Depend. But as the government, our job will be able to create the atmosphere for people to want to come to Liberia, for people to feel safe that they're in Liberia, for people to feel like there are good hospitals when they are in Liberia, just in case, God forbid, they get sick, for people to be able to ensure that there are better roads in this country so they can get to their businesses, they can move their products to the port, they can export, and so that we can continue to grow our economy. That's the job of government, to ensure that the private sector from around the world can come and invest in Liberia and provide jobs.
So let's talk about infrastructure. You role, from what I see here, is big for you among other things also, right? Then you write here on your website, reads, connect all county capitals by paved roads, which will cost an estimated
Exactly.
3.5 billion. That is to connect all our capitals by paved roads will cost 3.5 billion. Where did you get that information from?
Well, you know, again, I've been blessed to have had the experience to have overseen the infrastructure development in this country. And so depending on what estimate you take, you know, what type of roads you want to build, it can go anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 billion dollars, depending on the quality, the size, the width, you know, the guarantee that you're going to get. Sometimes companies guarantee 10 years, guarantee 20 years. But either way, it's going to take in that neighborhood to build all of the roads. And that's something that our government, our budget in Liberia is 600 million, 700 million. You're not going to get that from your national budget. And so it really, you know, so even when you look at our economy right now in our country, maybe we'll build 20 miles of road and we'll be celebrating that. Oh yeah, we're doing well. No, we are not doing well. We are not doing well. You know, and so that's why I was so frustrating. And I made the remark when I listened to the State of the Nation address a few days ago, I guess 2 weeks ago now, when President talked about, you know, the Lofa Road is almost halfway done. The Lofa Road should have been completed in 2020. I know because I helped to, you know, we helped to bring the contractors in. We secured the money, which was ready, and we even broke ground before the previous administration left. The Lofa Road should have been completed in 2020. Yes, I know it's COVID, but why are we going into 2023 and we're talking about it's halfway done? The ELW road that's being built right now, that should have also been completed in 2019. And I know because I helped to negotiate and I helped to secure some of that money. So these are things, when we talk about road development, we have to be more aggressive. We have to be more aggressive in how we go about developing this country. We need $2.5 billion. We're not going to get it from our national budget. We have to be able to go and source that funding. We have to be able to leverage money. You know, even if we look at the World Bank, for example, they give us about $100 million every year. That's something you can take and leverage that over the next 20 years, which is $2 billion. You can then take that and be able to credit the $2 billion on behalf of knowing you're getting $100 million from the World Bank and be able to build immediately. Be able to build half of your country or your entire country's road infrastructure and network within the first 5 to 6 years. We have to start to think outside of the box if we're going to build Liberia.
And you know, I'm sure we will have to bring you back here to dedicate, you know, a discussion with you specifically on your plans. But let me get to the issue of housing. That is important. That is very significant. And according to you, create a mortgage scheme that currently does not exist in Liberia. to spur national growth and development through infrastructure development and home ownership, build low-cost housing estates, ensuring that hundreds of thousands of Liberians move out of the slums, which have no access to running water, proper sanitation, and electricity. And talking about sanitation, you also said something that in 6 years, when you are elected president, you want Liberia to be, if possible, number one and the best cities in Africa. That is very more ambitious. But let's start with
the cleanest.
Yeah. So let's talk about the housing. I mean, you're talking about mortgage here, my man. How is it going to work?
No, Liberia is one of the only countries in the world that don't have mortgage, that don't have mortgage banks. How do we expect our citizens to rise? How do we expect our citizens to live in better homes? How do we expect our citizens to be able to improve their life if everything is cash? Liberia is also one of the only countries in the world where you have to pay your rent the full year ahead. Some of our people are making $100. They're living in an apartment or in a house where they rent at $40. Where do you expect them to get $500-$600 from at any one given time? So that's why we have turned Liberia into a culture of just begging. Please give me, please give me. We have to empower our people. And one way to do that is to be able to ensure that we have mortgage systems in Liberia. If mortgage banks in Liberia, if you're working and you have been there for a certain amount of time, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be able to go to the bank and get a mortgage to be able to build a better house or to be able to buy a better house. So again, Liberia is one of the only countries in the world who do not have mortgage loans, and we have to change that. Even in America, that everybody, America.
So this is
of the people.
This is
probably,
encouraging.
I don't want to.
This is encouraging financial banking institution to make money available for mortgage. Or is government involved in any way with this?
Well, again, we have to put the policies, and also, of course, government will have to make the pitch to international partners and multilateral partners to be able to help to fund some of the money that would be used as seed money to establish this. So yes, government's involved in it, but the whole goal of me running for president is to start to take government out of everybody's business every single day. We have to be able to put the policies in place. We have to be able to make sure that we have better roads and better schools and better hospitals for our people. But let the private sector work. Let's regulate them. If anybody is caught stealing or doing anything corrupt, we prosecute them, they go to jail. But let so strong, so innovative, so smart, they will make it work. We just have to provide people the opportunity. In Liberia, once we provide the Liberian people an opportunity, they will get out of poverty. And so that's what we have to be able to do. No more like let's say West Point. When is somebody who's living in West Point going to leave out of there? Even if they're working, there's no access to loans, there's no access to credit. How are they going to move from their zinc house? How are they going to go to a brick house? How are they going to electrify the house? We have to be able to provide the opportunity for them to see a better future, for them to work towards a better future. Right now in Liberia, when people want to get out of the situation they're in, the only thing they can do is pray that their cousin or their friend get a government job to recommend them somewhere. That's it. And that should not be the case.
Thank you. And we will have to invite you at some time in the near future to talk more about your plans. So let's talk something else. You are running for president. There are people who serve as president in Liberia. Of the Liberian presidents, which one among them do you think you want to emulate, and why?
This is a question where I become very political with this question.
Okay.
I think everybody who has served the presidency has loved the country of Liberia. Some people just go about different ways of loving this country. But, just in the recent future, in the recent history, I wasn't born I was born in 1979, so I wasn't around when Tolbert was president, but everybody talks about how progressive he was. Let's go to the 80s, where President Dole focused a lot on infrastructure development, opening up the roads, the road network, and things of that nature. Then you have President Taylor, and I think people don't give President Sirleaf a lot of credit or enough credit for keeping the peace in this country. We had just come out of war. There was still a lot of hate and animosity between our people. And so, I think she did a very good job in doing that as well, in terms of keeping and maintaining the peace. So every president,
you don't have one single president that, you really want to emulate in terms of policy. You have multiple. Is that what I'm hearing from you here?
I always say, I joke, but for every joke, there's half truth to it. I really wish that my father, Dr. Harry Moniba, had the opportunity to be president, because I know the plans he had for this country. And so, and this is something, when I talk to people, I'm trying to build a legacy. I'm trying to build a legacy of empowerment, of development. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Like I said, every president has done their fair share in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of putting out policies and laws. There's some presidents I really feel should have done a lot more. But, I think what's more important right now is to be able to talk about my plans for Liberia and what I want to do as president of the Republic of Liberia.
Have you taken up time to learn about the presidents of Liberia, what their challenges were, and how they overcame those challenges, what their successes were, and what their failures were? Have you done yourself that favor to read about them? I think that is significant.
I think the problems in Liberia have been pretty much the same throughout, to be very fair and frank with you.
You believe that's strongly?
100%.
Okay.
There's always been roads. There's always been lack of electricity. Even when you go as far back as the settlers, there's always been roads and healthcare. It's always been schools. When you go all the way back to the 1800s, 1840s and 50s, where there weren't any schools in our rural areas, there weren't any roads in our rural areas. There wasn't any development in our rural areas, and it's still like that in many instances today. So the problem in Liberia has remained the same, and that's why it's so frustrating. We don't give enough people access and the ability to succeed on their own merit. A lot of times in Liberia, people have to have a family member, like I said before, succeed in government before they can succeed. A lot of our schools right now, and it's been like that for decades, over a century, a lot of our students go and sit down on dirt floor and broken benches. I watched a documentary about Firestone in 1922, 1926, and you see the way of life of the Liberian people. And for the most part, it hasn't changed. So we have to be able to bring ourselves into development. So when you look at Liberia, yes, there's some nuances that needs to, that change from 1800s to early 1900s to early 2000s. But the fact of the matter is, the Liberian people have not been living the type of life that they deserve. And we have to be able to change that. And that, as president, that's going to be my focus.
Thank you. And Dr. Moniba, you speak of your father very highly and profoundly. And I think that is a good thing. So that one can say there's a lot you heard from him. He was our vice president during Samuel Doe's rule. As a son to him, a man would believe so well. What was one thing he told you that stood out and even stand out today, told you that informs your curiosity to serve our country, be it was a decision that was a blunder for the country, or a profound decision that was good for the country? What is it?
And that's a very important question. And I speak, like I said, I speak 1 or 2 times a day, and I engage with a lot of people. And I always tell people the one advice that he would always tell me, and it was very simple. I do not have money to leave you, but I
Okay.
will leave you a name and legacy that you'll be proud of. Nowhere, no matter where you go in Liberia, people will ever say that Dr. Harry Moniba stole money, Harry Moniba ever told them to beat somebody or kill somebody. And so this is the legacy that me now as an individual, as a son, I'm living up to that legacy. I'm trying to even surpass that because in life, he would always say that, I want you to be better than me. And that's what, and that's been my goal. But I know what he wanted for this country was development, was transparency, was greatness. And so that's why I've lived my life this way. Going to school, I knew I had a focused goal, which was helping to develop Liberia. Returning to Liberia in 2012, when, I lived a comfortable life in the United States, but I sacrificed. I left the jobs to come to Liberia, to be able to work and contribute, because every one of us must become the change that we want to see in our country. So my dad was very clear. He's not leaving me money because he did not have it, but he was going to leave me a name and legacy that not only would I be proud of, but I would have the responsibility to help to build. And that's what I'm doing.
Good, 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 good. I like what you, but I was asking for what is any missing piece that will serve as a catalyst to transform our country that your father, came to realize during his time in government. You say you hear a lot about Tobert, how he was this progressive president. One would think that when he was in Thurman administration, there were things he was looking at that were not progressive enough. And so you say, okay, this is what we're not doing. We're not doing it better. That's why we're struggling. So when he came in, he was progressive, educational. So that's the question I'm asking. What's that missing piece that your father discovered when he served that he left with you, that you can use now to be a better president for Liberia?
I don't think it was anything about a missing piece. He always just talked about respect for self, to be honest with you, and valuing the name of, the last name Moniba, and also being a contribution to the country. I think the missing piece we have always had in Liberia is that because resources are scarce, because we don't have that much resources in the country, people tend to always put themselves and their family over country. Themselves, their family, then their tribe, then their county over country, when it should be the other way around.
Okay.
And that's the mistake. And so that's the missing piece. The reason why we have the Liberia we have right now is that people put self over country. We have to be able to change that. And that's one of the primary reasons I'm running for president, to be able to change that perception and that mindset that we have in this country.
I'm excited that you have this profound experience of working in the past administration in many capacities. And now you are not in government and you see another government working for us. Tell us. And you studied communication, and so communicators are good analysts. Compare for us, as privileged as you can, early administration and we are administration. How do you think we're doing? How did we do and how we're doing now? Better or worse? Or about the same?
I get that question a lot, to be honest with you. And I never answer it because, I never wanted to take away from the focus of my message. And my message is simple, that Liberia is one of the greatest countries in Africa, and we now have to prove it by having some of the best public schools, by having some of the best roads and best hospitals. And so that's what we have to work for. What I always do say, though, is that the progress that we need in Liberia is, I wouldn't be running for president if I thought the progress, the development in this country was on the right track. So I do say that. The reason I'm running for president, not to say, oh, I want to be president. The reason I'm running for president is to be able to ensure that we right Liberia's ship, that we start to go in the right direction, and not slowly, but quickly. We need to be able to build. We need to be able to empower. We need to be able to train, and we need to be able to do that now. We need a new Liberia right now. And that's why I'm running for president, to help to create this new Liberia, to help to change the mindset, to help to show Liberians that, what we have been doing in this country Again, and I would say for the fourth time, I think in this interview, it's not good enough. That's why I'm running for president, to make sure that Liberia becomes a country that we all deserve.
In the President's State of the Nation address, he said, the state of the nation is strong, it's vibrant. I agree with the one when he said it's useful. And what do you say? Is it strong?
No, I mean, no, let's be very, the state of the nation, our nation is not strong. It's not where it needs to be. It is not strong. It needs a lot of work. I said before, the minute we have to send one of our children to go sit down on the floor, on a bench, it's not strong. I will give an example. A few weeks ago, a family member of mine got sick, seriously sick. So we put them in the car and we rushed to ELW hospital. And you can imagine the tension and how everybody is scared. We took them to ELW hospital, no bed. We took them to SOS clinic. We ran in there, scared, running, right? The nurses didn't even move. I mean, honestly, they didn't even move. No bed. We ran over to Catholic hospital, no bed. We finally were able to go to Fidelity, where we were able to get. That was almost an hour from after the point we got to ELWA. So the minute one person has to give that story, and just think, I'm blessed enough to have had a car. So we're moving around. What if the typical Liberian person does not have a car? How they're moving around on motorbike, in keke, waiting for taxes. So the minute that happens, the state of the nation is not strong. Let's stop fooling ourselves. Let's start to demand more from our countries. So because of that, we have to be able to look at the challenges we have in the country, be honest with ourselves. You know, to say the state of the nation is not strong is not a bad thing. Let's be honest. It's not strong. Our healthcare system is not strong. Our education sector is not strong. Our private sector is not strong. The fact that the government, the government is the biggest employer in Liberia, that does not make a strong economy. We have to change that.
Thank you. And folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. My name is Anthony C. Of course, this is the Hour of Politics. My guest is Dr. Clarence K. Moniba. He is the political leader of Liberia National Union, a party established in 1997. He is the fifth political leader, by the way. It was established by his father, the late former Vice President, Dr. Harry Moniba. Thank you. We will take a short break. When we come back, we'll be reading a few comments and we will get your, responses to those comments, and then we will get your closing. A short break. We will be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony C. We will read a few comments here, and after that, we will bring that Moniba in to respond. Somebody is displaying. Emmanuel Jackson said, Moniba 2023. The website actually is www.moniba2023.com. If you want to read more about Dr. Moniba's plans. Samuel as Bravo Rare, another money donator coming to the race. Anyway, let me leave it there. Let's hear from Rana Yamfo. I am watching you from New Georgia Estates. Hamilton Ride, great one, Chief. Yeah, in Kolahon, watching you, our good leader. Somebody is watching from all the way Kolahon. That is great. This person is Philo Clee, but watching from Lowsdown, PA. I hope I pronounced that right. Fellow people should help me with that name. Ahmed Kesali is focused on liberal governance consultants. I am in the race to be his running mate in the race. Somebody must be excited about you. The man running for VP for you, Grace Carr, he made the work he did within the government about the country and not himself. Grace, again, yeah, he has service, real service. She writes, I think Grace got a vote for you here that I saw. Somewhere she wrote, she said, I will vote for you. I saw it in the comment section. But yeah, from Glendy, yeah, Glendy writes, how will you introduce yourself to someone who don't know you? That is the question there for you. Emmanuel Jackson, again, exactly, Dr. Moniba, the planning nature of socio-economic development in Liberia aren't consistent and long-term. Let me hear from V. Harding. The 1 year in advance and 2 years in advance rental practice has to be done away with. That person is saying. More comments here. Let me read this one from Prince Moniba. Watching live from Monrovia, Liberia. I have followed Dr. Clarence for some times now. I think he had a message worth listening to. Prince Moniba is our reporter there in Liberia. Like yeah, from Rabbi Zebedee. I trust your ability that we work at the Ministry of State. Like yeah, from the man Evans Morris, and I then follow a focus on Liberia. I was going to ask this very question to him. I don't know which question. Maybe I asked that question. Are you trying to say I'm too smart? I asked you a question, my friend. Looking for more comments to read. All right, let me leave it there for comments. Dr. Moniba, please, you can respond to the comments that I just read.
I'm always happy to be able to come on and talk about, where I think the direction of Liberia should be going.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, sometimes people think, what I'm doing, they may think that it's easy to be like, oh yeah, you're running for president. It's very difficult. It's very long days, very hard days, stressful days, because people, in Liberia, people assume that if you're running for president, that means you have money, and so one of the comments I talked about, I think something, I didn't understand it too good. But, people think that because you're running for president, you have money. No. I'm running for president because I have a vision for this country that I need to see implemented if we are to empower this country, if we are to improve the lives of other people in this country. And so that's why I'm running for president, so that all of us can understand and believe that our generation, the generation that I'm part of, the 85% of the people who are the age of 45 and under, that we have to take the responsibility to make Liberia a better place. Nobody is going to do it. And so, I'm very proud of what I'm doing. I fully believe, I tell people this and I say it with the utmost confidence. The only thing that is stopping us from victory, from winning the elections in this October of 2023, is for enough people to hear us, for enough people to know us, for enough people to listen to our plan and our vision and our policies and how we're going to implement, for enough people to know the history of what I've been doing and where I've been working in this country and my character. Once we do that, I have the utmost belief and confidence that we'll be successful and we'll make history, not just winning a presidential elections. We will make history, not only winning a presidential elections. That's not, the only thing we do. Also, we want president to say, no, what we are after is so that we can lead the transformation of Liberia. We can lead the positive change of Liberia. We want a new Liberia, and we want it now. And so we're going to work towards it. We're going to work every single day. And I hope that the people listening join us. Join us to believe that a better Liberia is possible.
So my final question, Liberians, I think according to Joe Walker, we are talking people. And when you are in the media, and you don't have to be the media to hear a lot of things, there is this rumor that's been going around. I understand you are a son of Lofa, and the former Vice President Joseph Boakai is in the race. You serve in Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's administration. You were the youngest, according to you. And people are saying that, maybe you're in the race because Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is pushing you to undercut Boakai's chances. I don't know where that coming from. And this is an opportunity we think we need to give you to provide clarity based on the truth. What is it? Is that what it is? Is it Ellen's hand behind you?
That question, people say that if they don't have ambitions for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
People say that if they don't love their own country and want to be part of the changing of this country, and so it's not frustrating to me. I understand it because when people look at my resume, there's no holes in it. When people look at my education, there's no holes in it. When people look at my qualifications, there's no holes in it. So the only thing they can come up with is that somebody else is putting me up to spoil votes. I'm looking to win votes. I'm looking to win the hearts and minds of the Liberian people so that together we can develop and build this country. So the people who say that, I listen to them, but I ignore it. I ignore it simply because, if they don't have big dreams for themselves, if they don't have aspirations for themselves, I do. And my aspiration is to be one of the people who helps to transform my country of Liberia.
So transforming the country of Liberia, you have the opportunity once again by another media institution to speak to your fellow citizens. Some of them might be hearing you for the first time. Why you want to live with them, that should be any reason why they should tell somebody about you and to maybe ultimately cast that vote for you. Your final thoughts.
And again, thank you so much for this platform. I really liked your questions. You were tough, thorough. So I really appreciate that. Because I think if somebody wants to stand up and say they want to be president, especially of our Liberia, they have to be able to sit here and answer the hard questions. They have to be able to have thought through how they want to develop and build this country. The only thing I ask the Liberian people is not to make your decision today. Make your decision after you have heard all of us speak. Make your decision on who you're going to vote for, not in February or even July. Make it after you listen to our platform. See who has the strength, see who has the energy, see who has the education, see who has the background, see who has the love for country, see who has the vision. And once you do that, make your decision. The last thing I always tell people, I said, I'm not going to ask you to vote for me in the sense of, oh, please, God, please bless me, let me be president. My prayer is that Liberia gets a great president to lead our country. I believe that I'm that person. But of course, everybody will have to make that decision. But I trust in the Liberian people's decision-making and their ability to be able to choose the right person to make Liberia one of the greatest countries in Africa. So thank you so much for this platform.
You are so welcome. And we want one more commitment from you here before you leave. And we want a very short answer. We here as a media platform, we are organizing presidential debate. Can you commit to participate in Focus on Liberia presidential debate?
Absolutely. Count me in. Count me in. I look forward to participating in the debate. Like I said, everybody in Liberia loves Liberia. We just all go about showing the way we love our Liberia in different ways. So yes, I can commit to that, and I look forward to being a part of it. So thank you very much for that offer.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. Folks, that would do it for the interview with Dr. Clarence K. Moniba, political leader, Liberian National Union. Good luck, brother. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, folks, the song We Are All Liberians is taking us home, and bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.